Welcome to the Market Engage Thrive podcast, where we help you navigate the online marketing and entrepreneurial jungle. If you love marketing, automation, and all things productivity, you're going to like it here. And now, here is your host, Sam Picarello.
Hi, everyone. This is Sam Picarello, and welcome to the Market Engage Thrive podcast. Thank you for joining me for another episode. I really appreciate you lending me your ears and spending time with me. I hope you find this episode useful. If you do make sure that you do leave me a review and let me know what you think. Would love to hear from you. And today's topic, we're going to be talking about the hustle mindset. Hustle is something that there's a lot of chat, a lot of conversation going around the internet, especially the online business community, because that's where I am. So that's kind of like my ecosystem. And then, so that's kind of the world. And I hear the world talking about this quite a lot. And there's a little bit of conflict as far as hustling versus doing things with ease. And so I just wanted to kind of share my point of view and hopefully make you change your perspective maybe a little bit, or just agree with you or disagree with you. So I just wanted to share that and then see maybe that can help you in some way. Me personally, I'm a person, I like working. I enjoy working. I like to work hard and I like to push until I get what I want. And so for me, ease is not something that I strive for. I strive for completion. I strive for success. And it doesn't bother me whether it's hard or it's easy. You know, obviously, easier the better, but I will not compromise results for ease, right? So I think that's where the base, the foundation, the source of the conflict is just different personalities and different priorities. Their priority is to do things easily, not because they're lazy, but because that's what's comfortable to them. Whereas others, they like to be challenged and pushed and kind of doing things the hard way, because that's when they feel like they're most productive, right? So let me dig a little bit deeper, and I want to talk about some of the greatest entrepreneurs. And my personal favorite is Mark Cuban from Shark Tanks and the basketball team, and his self-made. I think he's a billionaire now, or at least he's a multi-millionaire. But I did not know a whole lot about him until I started watching Shark Tank. And he is my favorite. Robert is my favorite also, because he's sweet and nice. But Mark Cuban, he's a very sharp man. I just like his no-nonsense approach. He's very, he doesn't mince his words, so to speak. So I do like him. And something that he said recently, I read his book, but I listened to an interview that he did recently. And then he said, hustle beats talent when talent doesn't hustle. That's his point of view. So you might be talented, but if you don't put in the hustle, you're not going to get anywhere fast, right? So that's his point of view. That's what he thinks. And I tend to agree with that, of course, and that's common sense. And it's a conversation that I've had with my kids. I have a daughter who plays competitive sports, and my son also. And we talked about how there are some people who are very talented and very smart, but they did not do very well in life, or they don't get what they wanted because they did not put the work in, versus there are others who may not have been as naturally talented, but because they've hustled, they're doing much better than those who had natural talent, for example. So that's where the difference is. And it just sometimes I think the difference is ambiguous. It's a gray area. And I think quite often too, we confuse work mules, like somebody who just works, with somebody who's a hustler. A work mule, right? So this is where we're going to kind of differentiate between the two. A work mule is always busy doing this and often doing things that anyone else can do. Anyone else. Not necessarily them. A hustler is smart enough to know that their time is best spent to achieve the results they want. So they could be working on a gazillion other things, but they're very smart in what they're going to go after because they know that's where their zone of genius is. And it's a big difference is that, and I think that's the difference. It's a big difference, but maybe it's not a clear difference. It's not clearly defined difference that's really confusing the online business community. So let's go back to Mark Cuban for another second. As I said, he's my favorite. And if you've ever watched him on Shark Tank, if you haven't, you can find some episodes on YouTube. And you'd probably notice that his face lights up whenever he hears an entrepreneur on the show tell their stories of going above and beyond to get deals and grow their businesses. As an investor, obviously, he only invests in the people who are hard workers, right? You might have the most brilliant idea in the world, but clearly if he feels like you're lazy or you're going for ease or you're already spending quite a big chunk of your profits on unnecessary expenses because you just don't want to hustle, then he's not going to invest in you. So that's the impression that I get about him when I'm watching the show. And, he says you've got to grind. It takes work, right? There are no shortcuts. And, people think that starting a business and there's just like this straight line when you start to gaining some level of success, but it doesn't work that way. So this is what he said, and I completely agree, because I have seen many people who do try to go for that ease approach, and quite often it does not work, especially they're not at that level yet where they can take a step back and, the business has momentum. If you're just starting a business, or if you've been in business for at least this is the first 2 to 3 years of business, more often than not, you're still in the hustle and grind phase because you're still working on growing that business. It does not take 6 months. Sometimes it does. Very, very, very rarely does it only take 6 months. So the hustle and the grind is real. You have to do it. It's part of growing. It's part of getting this business thing going, right? But if we're from the get-go, we're trying to go for ease, then you're just going to make the process a lot longer, right? Unless you have buckets of money to throw at it. Then maybe you can take a step back and then just let it grow by itself as you put money into it. But the hustle, it has to happen. And you have to have that period of time where you do put a lot of time and you do put a lot of hours in. And I'm always reminded of this conversation that I had with someone. And they asked me that they're still working, they had a question for me, which was they were working a full-time job and they wanted to start a business. Fantastic. But they said that they just don't have the time. So I said, well, you have the evenings to work on your business. Oh, well, I need to relax. Okay, then you have the weekends. And they're like, oh, the weekends I'm busy. And I said, well, then you have the evenings. They're like, well, I still need to sleep. I said, well, there you go then. If you want to sleep, then I don't understand like what you want me to say, because the time, you decide how much effort you want to put into it, right? But it has to be a focused type of hustle, a focused type of work and energy, instead of just spinning your wheels or just being the work mule who's just starting a gazillion things and never finishing anything and never quite making any progress. So in this episode, I'm going to go through, I think about 5 points, and we're going to just talk about the hustle mindset and some of the things that really set the hustlers apart from everybody else. So number 1, the hustle mindset is innovation and resourcefulness. A hustler is agile, right? When it comes to their approach, they adapt and they change as their business evolves. That's one of the markers of a hustler, right? Making plans and expecting nothing to go wrong is not how hustlers work. It's not how people with that work ethic work. That's not the mindset. The hustler, they make a plan, they execute, and then they're fully prepared to adjust. You're able to change direction, to pivot, depending on whatever challenges come up as you go through that process. The opposite would be to create a plan and then really believe that everything's going to work out and not really have an expectation that you may have to pivot. You always have to adjust when you're a business, because quite often, I'd say about 90% of the time, things don't go the way you think they're going to go. They're going to go the way they're supposed to go. And then it's up to you to really pivot and then have that flexible mindset to adjust to the circumstances, to adjust to the feedback, and then act accordingly, right? So resourcefulness is the ability to find help or information that your business needs to progress. So we talked about innovation, and then we're going to talk about resourcefulness. Being resourceful is just being able to just go and then find what you need, be it hiring staff, be it finding information, be it learning things on time that you need for your business, be it just being able to just tap into a network, just knowing, okay, this is what I need, and I can go do it. This is what I need to find out, then I can go learn it. This is who I need to help me, then I'm going to go find them. So that's what resourceful means. What I see often is newer online entrepreneurs or small business owners, they believe Google will teach them everything, right? They need to know, they will just go Google everything. And then they end up spending so much time really researching. That's what they do. I've known people to research for years and years at a time, never actually doing anything, because they just don't have that, maybe the confidence and then the resourcefulness. You can Google everything, but sometimes you need to stop doing that and then decide what would be the best use of my time. So that was number one, is innovation and resourcefulness. Innovation, again, is being able to pivot and then expecting things not to go the way you think they will go, but also be prepared to change directions and act on the feedback that you're getting. And then number two is the hustle action. And there is the hustlers know that the results are in the doing, not the dreaming or the talking, right? Sometimes we know talkers, we know dreamers, and then we have the doers, people who just go and do. I've been guilty of all of it. I've been guilty of dreaming, of talking, and then maybe not much doing. Sometimes I've done more than I've talked or dreamt. It just depends on the year and the stage that I was in. And so to define that for you is, putting in the work is a skill. Put it into work. And it does not mean, and this is all framed with that you know what you want to accomplish versus putting the work in trying to do all kinds of things without any clear direction as to where you're headed. But to be a hustler, you have to be able to put in the work, not just 2 hours a day, but really quite often they tend to be obsessed with the work that they do. You think that they're saving the planet, but they're not. They're just running their business. But that's how obsessed they tend to be about their work. They put in a lot of hours in order to grow. They're obsessed with their growth and they are committed to seeing their projects through. Sometimes the weekends are not taken off. Sometimes families somewhat neglected because the business is more important at this moment in time. Because let's be honest, there is no such thing as balance. It's just different things are priority at different times or different stages of your life. It's just how it is. And so a hustler, that's what they do. They just try to, this is my focus today, and then this is my focus tomorrow. And then that's how you go through life versus forever fighting, trying to strike some sort of balance, because that's impossible to do most of the time, right? But as a hustler, they push through, they're committed to doing the work, and they're always ready for an opportunity. If there's an opportunity, they're going to be there to take it because they've done the work, versus somebody who's been doing it to go in the ease route, right? Oh, I want time to do this and this. And then the opportunities come, they don't fall out of the sky. You have to manufacture them first, and that happens through your work. But then the hustler's ready for it. Whereas for other people, it may seem like, the whole overnight success that took 10 years. It's a very similar concept, is that when you do the work, you actually are creating your own opportunities. To an outsider, it might seem like the opportunities just fell out of the sky to you, but you know that you have put in the time. So that's number two, is the hustle action. Is basically the result is in the doing, not the dreaming or the talking. You have to do. And also you have to follow through, which is also super duper essential, instead of just doing, and then never quite finishing. And number three is the hustle credo, which is persistence and perseverance, basically never quitting. And successful hustlers, they never quit, right? They embrace the challenge. Actually, they like challenges. The harder it is, the better, the more excited they get, because that puts them in a position where they really perform at their best, right? There's a challenge and there's a problem and they need to solve it. And a hustler is really very, very realistic, but optimistic, right? If someone is all doom and gloom, it's very hard for them to really be a hustler, because they kind of expect the worst, right? It's hard to kind of really give anything 100% if you don't think it's going to work. I don't think that's humanely possible. You're like, it's not going to work, so why am I even putting in the time? So I think as a natural quality of a hustler is to be an optimistic person, realistic but optimistic. And they know that success does not happen overnight, and really, if you think about it, some of our time's most successful business people, they spent years hustling until they experienced what we define as success. But for them, each small step was a success because really nobody had an easy journey or an easy path, but they had the setbacks. They fell flat on their butts and then they had to get back up and then try again. But we don't see that. We just see, oh, look at that. They've done this and this, and then life has given them this gift of success, which is not necessarily the case. And then number 4 is the hustle fire. As I mentioned that earlier, actually, is, the deep passion for what you do. We can talk about hard work, we can talk about drive all day long, but if you're not passionate about what it is that you do or what your business is about, then really your success is going to be very limited, because that's what fuels people. Because we can talk about hard work all day long, right? We can talk about that. But if you're not passionate about what you do, it's going to be hard to work hard, right? Hustlers, they have an undeniable love for what they do. They just enjoy it. Maybe it's making money. Maybe it's helping people. Maybe it's the tools. Maybe it's the interactions. Maybe it's the social aspect. Maybe it's just the difference. Maybe it's the teaching, it's the helping. It doesn't, big or small, regardless of what it is, if it's just something that will drive you, that you enjoy doing. So therefore, getting up and getting to work every day is not going to be a challenge, because you can't wait to start doing the work. If you feel like maybe you're not motivated to do the work, then maybe you're not in the right space, you're not doing the right work. Maybe you need to rethink your decision and maybe change direction, right? Sometimes the drive, the passion kind of dies because maybe things are not going the way they're supposed to be going, but that's only temporary. We all have some temporary setbacks, and normally you will be back at it pretty quickly. But if it's a long-term kind of feeling, you don't feel like doing what you want to do, you don't feel like doing the work in your business, then if it's a long-term type of phase that you've been through, then maybe you need to change direction, right? So let's go back to the hustlers. The hustlers, they love their craft and they're committed to improving themselves and doing whatever it takes to pursue that passion. It's like whatever it takes. And that's why sometimes, family time can take a hit, maybe recreational activities can take a hit, social life can take a hit, and so on, because they are so motivated and so driven and so passionate about what they do. And if the sole motivation for being in business is money, right? As I said, your journey, it might be long, it may not be. As I said, some people, they're very passionate about making money, and that's what drives them. They don't care what it is that they do, as long as the money is coming in at the right level, right? So it doesn't matter as long as you're passionate about it, and then you have to check in with yourself to make sure that you are passionate about it. For me personally, I think if my drive was money, I don't think it's going to last very long, because, money comes and goes, right? So if I was all about just making the money, then every time I spend the money, I might not feel very happy. I don't know. So I can't relate to being motivated just by the money, but each of their own, right? So those motivated by financial gains did not have, I don't think they'll have the same advantages, right? Because as with any business, and then if anybody's been through the recent recession that the United States has been through, then money ebbs and flows, right? So if the money's not coming in, they may not be as motivated. And also, if they're motivated by money, usually in the initial stages of a business, the financial gain is not quite there yet, because you're just building that business. So maybe they will not have the fuel to keep going till they start seeing a return on their investment in their business, be it time or effort, right? But if you're just motivated by the doing, by the work, the type of work that you're doing, so I think you will have an advantage over somebody who's purely just motivated by money. But that's just my opinion, right? So number 5, the hustle fuel, is basically celebrating small victories, which is super duper essential. If you don't give yourself time to reflect on where you've been and how far you've come, be it just a tiny little step, then you are going to burn out, because most hustlers, they're impatient, and it's still important to stop and celebrate your small victories. And And it's too easy, right, to get focused on the big goals because we're all about big goals and I want to accomplish this and accomplish that and this is what I want to go. And sometimes we just don't stop to think of how far we've come, what we have accomplished. It may not be as big as the next person you're comparing yourself to, or it may not be as far along as you had expected to be, but nonetheless, you have made progress. So the hustlers, that's what sets them apart is that, oh, well, you know what? This didn't work out as well as I thought, but it's the optimistic outlook on life. They can always find the positive, right? So there's always a little celebration for something, even though it didn't work out so well, but there's always a positive. There's always a small victory that can be celebrated in just about any circumstance. So to summarize, reaching your goals is complicated and it is a challenging process, and it requires you to develop like a mindset, really do the work and commit to remaining persistent in the face of challenges, because challenges will be there, right? There just will be, just like life is. Sometimes you do face challenges, in business more so. And I've always said this, is that I felt like going into business has been probably the biggest self-development lesson or course or transition that I've been through, because it does take a lot of mindset work and a lot of inner work really to kind of keep going, because you'll have your wins, but you'll also have your losses. And sometimes your losses will completely make you forget about your wins that you had. So it's always important to kind of keep your emotions in check and also always work on your mindset, So always take the time to pay attention to your victories. They may not match your big lofty goals, but it's always important to stop and then think about how far you've come and in the things that you have accomplished so far. And where you're going next, right? Because it doesn't happen overnight. And fortunately, I think unfortunate really, it's a negative that in the online marketing space, people are sold this, pie in the sky type of system that's going to make you crazy money, hundreds of thousands of dollars in 3 months, and so on and forth. And people are left disappointed. But I am an advocate of time. You have to give everything time to mature. You have to give yourself time to learn how to be a business owner, regardless of your job background, your career, your education. Being a business owner or an entrepreneur or a coach or whatever you want to be, a freelancer, it's completely new ball game. It's very, very different. There are some skills that you will not have, as I said, regardless of your background. There are some skills that you will need to develop in order to grow. So to have a system, business in a box type of thing sold to you, I don't think it's fair. I don't think it works. Clearly, it does not work, but it does breed that expectation from some people that it would just take 6 months for you to go from zero to widely multi-million-dollar successful. And that's not necessarily the truth or the reality for a lot of people. So I wanted to just talk about the hustler thing, because it comes up a lot. And I think also because growing a business is a lot of work, I think there's a marketing niche. They're targeting people who are burned out. So they're creating this new subcategory that is like business with ease, right? But I don't think there is it. I mean, there is ease once you get your systems and stuff in place, but there is not ease like I'm going to work 2 hours a day while I'm just starting my business. That is just not realistic. It's not feasible. If you're just starting your business, you need to put the time in or hire the staff. It's either or, but it will not happen with you just working a couple of hours a day. It'll take you a lot longer. But if, growing a business is your full-time focus right now, then you need to have the time. You need to put in the time, and you also need the work ethic, right? Be able to put in the hours, be able to grind and work hard and stay focused in order to achieve those goals. Because once you go through that phase, it doesn't get easy, right? It doesn't get easy, but you're learning, you're developing skills. And then once you get through the first year, maybe 2 years, then it becomes a lot smoother. You have the experience behind you now, and then you can make much better decisions. And then you can manage your time a lot better. And also you will have the income, the funds to hire staff to help you. So that's really my message. If you consider yourself an entrepreneur or a small business owner, then you are a hustler, right? And then you just need to work on the mindset that don't look for ease, but really thrive in the work that you do. And I understand there's family and other obligations, but we try to, as I said, there's no such thing as balance. Something has to give. So you have to be realistic as far as what is it today, right? And what is it tomorrow? Or you can split up your day, right? Does not mean that you work 12 hours, 18 hours a day on the business, but you split up your time and say, okay, I'm going to work up to 6 p.m. and I'm going to go hang out with so-and-so. So that's just what I wanted to share with you. It's just always very interesting for me, to hear the conversations online about doing it with ease and it shouldn't be hard and blah, blah, blah. And to me, that doesn't make sense at all because you have to do the work, right? You can't just be getting started. It's like trying to learn a new sport or running, a new sport, for example, and say, well, I'm just going to practice once a week and that's all I'm going to do. And eventually I'm going to get good at it. Well, yeah, probably, but it's going to take you a heck of a long time. And again, it's up to you and your timeline and your goals. But that's not necessarily to say that people who are labeled as hustlers are doing something wrong. If anything, they're just going after what they want in their own way. And most likely it's because they have the mindset to do that, right? It's their work style, it's their personality. And a lot of these traits that we talked about, it's their natural traits. They're optimistic, they're hardworking, they're driven, they're focused, they're motivated. But it's not to say that those are not traits that cannot be learned. They can be learned. It's just a matter of, again, shifting your mindset and deciding what is it you want to do and then committing to the process, right? And really checking in with yourself every single day to make sure that you're on track, that you are working on the right things for your business. So I hope that was helpful to you. It's a little bit of a ramble, right? A little bit of a rant, but I just wanted to share my point of view as somebody who works a lot. I do work a lot and I actually enjoy doing the work that I do. So I just wanted to share my point of view and how I see it and then encourage other people to really just dig deep and kind of figure out what fits best for you. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of the Market Engage Thrive podcast. I hope you're having a wonderful day and make sure you leave a review if you've enjoyed this and I will be back in your ears again soon. Thank you for joining me. Bye.